Earlier, I spoke to our correspondent, Tareq Abu Azzoum. He is in Rafah in southern Gaza.
Around 322 humanitarian trucks have been allowed to get into the Gaza Strip from both Karem Abu Salem and Rafah crossing border here in Rafah. These humanitarian convoys are loaded with water, sugar, flour and all kinds of basic necessities that Palestinians are in a very desperate need for. But it's worth mentioning also that these humanitarian trucks are also accompanied by trucks that are guided and delivered to the commercial sector and to the private sector here in the southern part of the Gaza Strip, but none of these humanitarian convoys had been given the access to reach to the northern part of Gaza Strip, despite the Israeli military decision to reopen again the Erez crossing and to guarantee further flow of humanitarian supplies to people in the north. But yet only 3 humanitarian trucks get into the northern part of Gaza. One has been loaded with fuel, 2 others with medical supplies being transferred to hospitals in the northern part of the territory. But generally in times of pre-war, between 400 up to 500 humanitarian trucks, the Gaza Strip was generally consuming on daily basis, which means that the amount that being delivered to the Gaza Strip is still yet incomparable to the immense needs of populations here, specifically those who are trapped in the northern part of Gaza and facing high rates of malnutrition and with different signs of famine looming on the horizon.
And Tareq, today we've heard a significant number of Israeli troops have pulled out of southern Gaza, particularly in Khan Younis. Many people now returning back home to their homes in Khan Younis to see what's been left behind. What are you hearing from them about what is there?
Yes, we have been hearing from them that they only found destruction that is in every single corner of the city of Khan Younis. They have been talking about they can barely find one building that could not be hit by Israeli military a strike or even artillery bombardment. They are talking about a great deal of destruction and pain being left behind the Israeli withdrawal from the city of Khan Younis as a result of direct battles between Hamas fighters and the Israeli military there. Complete destruction of educational facilities, civil infrastructure and even medical sector that become completely out of service, specifically for the second largest hospital in the city of Khan Younis. But again, right now, Palestinians see that the Israeli withdrawal from the city right now and being stationing at the eastern part of the city is a kind of initial step being taken by the Israeli army in order to prepare for potential military incursion for Rafah, as the Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has stated that the withdrawal of the Israeli army is for further preparation for a potential military incursion in Rafah, and that's absolutely linked to the negotiations right now being ongoing in Carroll regarding to reach a ceasefire agreement between Hamas and Israel. So clearly we have been heading to difficult days if there's going to be any sense of collapse of security, and also for negotiations between both parts on the ground. We might witness further attacks on Rafah that had been widely attacked in the past few hours.
OK, I'm now joined from Washington, D.C. by Carroll. He's president and CEO of ANERA, which is the American Near East Refugee Aid Organization. Thank you for your time. How do you explain the sudden boost to the number of aid trucks that have entered southern Gaza today?
Well, look, all of us working in ANERA, in Gaza, ANERA and many other international NGOs, the UN agencies have been asking for more aid since the beginning. If you remember, Gaza was completely shut off at the beginning of this war for 2 weeks. And then the 20 trucks a day that President Biden got the Israelis to agree to took a few days to get going, took a long time to really get going. And as we see today, this is a welcome development that over 300 trucks have gone in, and it's only the second time in 184 days that more than 250 trucks have gone in. So this is a welcome development. There still needs to be a lot more.
Do you think we would be talking about these 300 plus trucks entering Rafah today if we haven't seen a number of Western aid workers die in that convoy we saw last week?
No, sadly, no, we wouldn't be. This tragedy, has allowed more pressure to be put on. And what we really would all hope to see is that Israel and all of its authorities, the IDF, the government, its population as well, would see and express the acknowledgement that humanitarian aid for Palestinians in Gaza serves everyone's interest. A desperate population in Gaza does not serve the interest of Israeli security and the security of its people.
And in terms of the number of trucks, so 322 trucks, we know that prior to October 7th, 500 trucks used to enter the Strip to feed people and generally to provide support. So how far do you think this is going to go towards meeting the needs of people in southern Gaza?
Well, let me talk for a minute about the numbers and then talk about what the really important issue is. So on the numbers, again, this is a welcome development, 322 trucks. But since the beginning of this war, with this number today, that brings us to just over 100 trucks a day, about 108 trucks a day on average over 184 days. And I'll note that the Israeli authorities have disputed the UN logistics cluster log, but I'll note that 322 trucks today takes the total number just over 20,001 trucks since the beginning. And I would imagine that on the 6-month anniversary, it is a nice thing to say we have now reached 20,000 trucks. So I suspect they know exactly the numbers that are in that log and are using that as their metric. But that's 108 trucks a day. If they bring in 322 trucks a day for the next 6 months, that will take us to a little bit over 200 trucks a day. Still less than half is what is needed. So to make up ground, to meet the extreme gaps in food and in other essentials for living, we need to see more than 500 trucks a day. So very welcome development, but it really needs to be doubled. Now, the real issue is who's going to deliver all this aid. UNRWA is blocked. The Israelis won't communicate with UNRWA and won't allow the agency to deliver aid into the north. World Central Kitchen, ANERA, and at least 2 other international NGOs have paused our work until we get more assurances that humanitarian aid workers are welcome. It's understood that we play a vital role and that we are protected and allowed access, protected access and safety for our workers so that we can effectively deliver the aid.
Right. As you say, the issue has always been distribution. And my understanding is these trucks are not even going to be heading north. They're exclusively for the south. But the north is where we're seeing some of the most acute suffering.
That's right. We have to get more aid into the north. The opening, the promise, the announced opening of the Erez crossing in the north is also a welcome development, but also understand that will take some time. It was damaged at the beginning of the war. It wasn't used recently in past years for goods. So we shouldn't get distracted by thinking that the opening of the Erez crossing is going to be a big benefit. It's every little bit helps. We have to work on every front. There could be more crossings open. The Karni crossing on the eastern edge could be open. We just all have to work together to get more aid because, again, suffering, desperate, dying, famine-stricken Palestinians in Gaza does not serve the interest of anyone. And the numbers of people dying from starvation are going to climb dramatically, probably regardless. It's too late to save too many. But if we could get more food in, and the Israeli administration has said that food and water and medical supplies and shelter are allowed in without prior approval. And that was also a welcome development, but we need to make sure that they're keeping their word on that and that all of the partners along the supply chain know that so that no one says, well, no, we can't move this forward because it's not approved. We can say, no, in fact, the Israeli authorities have approved generally with pre-approval, no approval needed for food, water, medical supplies, and tents. So COGAT, the administration of the occupation, has said there's no limit to the amount of aid that can go in. We need to take them at their word. We need to work with them and push and cajole and make sure that everyone is doing everything they can to double and triple the amount of aid that's going in on a daily basis. And then, as I say, make sure we have the capacity. We have the capacity. We need to make sure we have the security and the assurance of cooperation and not hindrance. And I can say that we don't have that yet. We are still extremely nervous about operating in Gaza. We're not satisfied with the findings of the investigation on the World Central Kitchen killings. If indeed it was an accident, it was a mistake, we and World Central Kitchen and everyone would like to see the evidence. We'd like to hear the tapes. It's hard to believe the description that Israel has given for why that occurred. But if that is the case, then reassure us by providing the evidence. And we also, ANERA, lost a colleague, Musa Shawar, our logistics coordinator, just a month ago, and we don't have any explanation on his death. We'd like to believe that he wasn't targeted, because there's absolutely no reason that he would be targeted, and it's a crime against humanity, a war crime to target international aid workers, any aid workers. He's a Palestinian, any humanitarian aid worker. And it's very disconcerting. It's very stomach churning to read of an Israeli artificial intelligence program for targeting called Daddy's Home. And the idea is that they track a target until he's home and then kill him. And Musa had arrived home in his family home from a day of delivering aid with ANERA, still had his ANERA sweatshirt on, and he was killed as he sat down to have coffee with his family, as was his 6-year-old son. I just can't. This is the stark reality that needs to be addressed if we are going to provide life-sustaining essentials to lessen the desperation in the Gaza Strip.
Sean, I appreciate you talking to us. Sean Carroll, President and CEO of ANERA, the American Near East Refugee Aid Organization.
Thank you very much for having me.